Illness. Well, don't blame yourself. That's pretty common, but our thoughts can sometimes keep our body stuck in stress mode, and that is not good for healing. There's a powerful connection between our thoughts, stress, and inflammation. Hi, I'm Terri. I'm the founder of Inspired Wellness, and I bring this content to you in hopes that I can help you do what I've done, and that is find the path to remission of my autoimmune condition. So I want to tell you a little bit about my story. When I first got my diagnosis, I was actually happy. Why? That seems very strange. It's because I spent 1.5 years waiting to find out what is going on with me and having no idea, but just trying to grind away and just maintain my life, and it was getting harder and harder. So when I finally got a diagnosis, it was like, yippee, I finally know what's going on. Not that it was good news, but it was a time to begin to deal with what I had going on. In my case, it was a rare autoimmune disease. It's called Susac syndrome, and it affects the eyes, the ears, and the brain. I had never heard of it, and most doctors hadn't never heard of it either. But I got sent to a really smart neurologist that had seen it twice in a residency at the University of Washington, and that is Dr. Louisa Levy, and I will be eternally grateful to her for the diagnosis, because it would have been even longer had I not crossed paths with her to become her patient. And there's another story behind that too, which you can read my book to hear about that. And this is my book up here on the shelf, Faithful Autoimmune Remission. It is my story from before my diagnosis, when I started having symptoms, until when I finally found remission and I was on the path to becoming a health coach. So anyway, that was a span of 8 years. Go read my book and my story if you'd like. But so when I first got the diagnosis, as I said, I was happy to begin to. Negative thinking informs a stress response within the body, and that raises your cortisol and adrenaline. That's not good. Your nervous system becomes dysregulated. All of this leads to inflammation within the body and sleep disruption, digestion disruption. All of this because the body reacts to your thoughts, your negative thoughts, as danger. In my case, fear became part of my daily life because I had to navigate something that was very different than what I was used to, and it affected every part of my life. But what I found, and I have since learned, is that where the mind goes, the body will follow. Your thoughts are powerful. Turn the path now and deal with what was going on in a different way, with knowing what it was. However, it wasn't good news, like I said, and the eyes, the ears, and the brain is what my autoimmune disease affected, the microvascular blood vessels to those areas, which it had already caused some damage. So life was looking differently, and I finally knew why I was unable to work like I had been before, even though I knew cognitively what I needed to do, and I wasn't able to do it. And I've talked about that prior. That was just so frustrating. But not being able to work meant that, how am I going to make a living? I don't have a fat bank account to fall back on, so I'm not sure what to think about this. And so that in itself caused a lot of stress and anxiety. And I would mull over and work on my spreadsheets all the time and think about, how am I going to manage? Well, all of that stress keeps me stuck in that stress inflammation zone, and it's not conducive to healing. One thing that really helped me when I was going through this process is that I had a neurologist that was just absolutely amazing. The same neurologist that found my diagnosis. And she would talk to me about how are you doing? And I would tell her that, I'm worried and this and that. And she would encourage me. And this actually led to learning about reframing. So reframing means that you take a fact or a circumstance that maybe you have no power to change, but you begin to look at it with a different lens. Instead of looking at it negatively, such as, oh, my life has changed and it's never going to be the same again. It's not as good and I just don't know what I'm going to do. Instead, I began to think of this like, okay, well, my life has changed and I'm not sure of the future, but I know God has me. And I know that I can put my trust in him. And this is an opportunity to make some changes. Because in all honesty, I was under a lot of stress with my work. And I'd known for a long time that this wasn't good. But I just didn't have the wherewithal to be able to pull the plug and stop. Because I was very familiar and the money was good. So I just kept telling myself, just keep it up because it's going to get better. And I would say that over and over and it never got better. It would get worse, in fact. So this was an opportunity to say, okay, I can no longer do this. And if you've read the book, The Body Keeps the Score, it's kind of like that, where the body just finally says, all right, okay, enough already. You haven't called it, so I'm calling it. And so I believe that God redirected my life through that process, and he called it and said, you're done with this lifestyle. This is not good. It's not healthy, and I'm moving you on to something else. But that transition has been quite the process. And again, that's what the book's about. So it can be a painful process, but it's all good. And looking back from the other side, it is amazing, actually. And I am very thankful for my chronic illness as I look back, because it did change everything. Absolutely everything in my life. And it's a good life now. So anyway, some of the other tools that you can use besides reframing to adjust your thoughts are gratitude, being thankful for good things in your life. And it can be small things. It could be the sunset. It could be the health of your children, or the health of your parents, or whatever might be the case, that you have two legs to walk on, because not everybody does. And so being grateful and expressing gratitude or having a gratitude journal is really powerful for adjusting your thinking and your mindset. And your mind plays a powerful role within your healing process. Another tool is journaling. So journaling is something that I've done pretty much a good part of my adult years. And it's what I used to write the book too, because as I was going through my chronic illness, I used my journal as an outlet. When I was frustrated, when I didn't know what to do, when I was having so many appointments and so many tests, and they were all coming back normal, which is always a good thing, right? But when you're trying to get to the bottom of a medical situation and figure things out, it's just like, well, okay, keep going. And what could it be? It's just a process. And I know many of you have been down that road as well. But the journaling really helped me to kind of see things for what they are, and to accept things for what they are. And I don't know, God kind of spoke to me through the journals too. It was very encouraging and very healing for my heart. And I would come up with ideas in that process as well, which was also helpful. Another tool that you can use to adjust your thinking is to reduce negative input. Now, that could be from yourself, but it could also be from other people around you. Maybe you have people in your life that speak negative. Maybe you have family members that are negative about what's going on with you, or just they're negative in general. Most people don't like to be around negative people. I think that is probably true for a majority of the population, but especially at this point in your life where you're really trying to adjust your thinking and be positive for your own health, I think that that is a good time to reduce the effect that these people can have on you. Maybe don't see them as often. I know that's kind of hard, especially if they're loved ones. But you know what you have to do, and you have boundaries that you put around your life, and you're responsible for those things. So you have to take care of yourself first, and what affects you or doesn't affect you. Through all of this, it's important to remember that healing takes time, and it's best done one step at a time, one small step, because they do all add up. So now I want to take us to Romans 12:2, and I'm going to read it from my screen here. It's in my blog. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. This scripture is very meaningful to me. We are body, mind, and spirit, and healing is about the whole person. So it's not just about the body, but it's about your mind and your spirit as well. And God wants us to not conform to the behavior and customs of this world, which could be fear, which is a normal human response. I mean, I confess that I very much was there. And let him transform you into the new person by changing the way you think. This right here, our mind has so much power. It's unbelievable how much power our mind has. So we have to really regulate that. And that's what I've been talking about, as you know. It's important. And then it goes on to say, then you will know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. So God has a plan for you, friend, and you just have to listen. You are not failing because you have an illness and you're thinking about it in the way that you are. And you always need to keep in mind grace over perfection. Give yourself grace. I mean, take these small steps, and if it doesn't work, try again. Give yourself grace. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect, but just keep on going, one small step at a time. I invite you to, if you don't already have a habit of journaling, to give that a try, because I find writing this down, like in the quiet of the morning, is when I like to do it, but some people do it at night before bed or whenever works in their schedule. Writing things down is very healing. It gets your thoughts on paper, and I don't know, for me, when I'm putting my thoughts on paper, it allows me to process them better for some reason. And it kind of gives me a wider view of my thoughts. Like, okay, those thoughts are real, but once I put them on paper, I think, oh, that's kind of dumb. Why am I thinking that? And I can, like I said, I can process it much better. So I encourage you to begin a journal. I also invite you to subscribe to the channel. That really helps. And I have a freebie to give away to you. If there's a link in the description. It's called 9 Power Tips to Crush Autoimmune Fatigue. We all deal with that. And this gives you some good daily tips that you can do to get out of the fatigue and to have more energy and zest for life. Take care, friends, and I will see you next week.